This meeting is being recorded. Uh, Madam Clerk, would you do the roll call, please?
Certainly. Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Harrison is absent. However, he did reach the council president. Councilmember Young.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Vice President.
Here.
Council President Curry.
Here. That is 6. We have a quorum. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
So.
Moved by Ms. Reed, a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Ferguson. Any discussion?
Council President, if I may, I don't know if this is the right time, but if time allows, I'd like to leave the closed session. This personal matter.
Closed session at the end?
Yep.
Okay,
Council President, I don't want to add a topic of discussion, but that's-
okay. Get my pen out. And I have this one myself. Councilman Hairston wanted to discuss GHA Christmas party, but at the work session. Unfortunately, somehow found its way on this agenda, so we're going to remove it and put it to the work session as he intended it to be. So we'll just switch that out with 7th Street Park. And then closed session. Personnel. Okay, any other discussion?
Yes, Mr. President. The reason for the public director work, I actually think we need to discuss that a little bit more. There's some information that I think we need to be aware of before we move forward with this. And I have everything that we've been going back and forth with in emails. I just think it's something that not only get into it on the floor. So I just think it's something that I don't know, I just was made aware of this. And I think it's something the council should have been made aware of in discussion. And
So
if we go into a closed meeting, are we coming back out of the closed meeting? Or are we gonna do the closed meeting?
No, if so, you want to go in closed meetings to discuss this
Well, if
issue.
we're going to session anyway, we can discuss it at that point. But it depends on when you're going in. If you're going, coming back out, you can leave on the agenda. If you're going in, you're going to adjourn, then that's how we discuss.
So we'll go in and come back out. And if we make any a consensus to not move forward, then we can do that. But yeah, we'll come back out so that if we do move forward and want to vote on it tonight, then we can vote on it tonight.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll move that piece of legislation to after we come back from the closed meeting. Any other discussion? All right. Madam Clerk, I'm sorry. Did you?
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to ask one thing. So the information, does it have anything to concerning the director works? Does it have anything to do with his background check or something like that? Because I think the administration has finished that work and
Background check has been finished. No,
okay, so I think that those things that would be the back second thing would be the would would be the issue that would cause us not to move forward with the resolution.
That is not the only issue that will cause us not to move forward with the resolution. But we can discuss it, and he's gonna come back, we're gonna come out of close, and then council can decide how they want to move forward after we discuss it in closed session.
All right, thank you.
All right. Any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to know, we're gonna put closed session, going to after the station and before and then the reports.
That's a good point. No, you want to do it at the absolute end. Because then if we go to closed session, then citizens have to move out, then come, and it might be too much of a hassle.
Well, I mean, they're gonna have to, I mean, they should be able to come back in either way. When we come back into session, they can come back into the meeting, because if they wanna wait, it depends on how the council is doing. Either way, I'm just trying to figure out what to do.
I would rather handle it at the end of the meeting. Therefore, if citizens, when they make their comments, if they want to leave, they can. If they want to come back afterwards, the resolution of what we discussed, they can. But I don't, Okay.
I don't. I'm worried about it.
all right, so a vote to go in for this agenda as amended. Okay, clerk?
Council,
Okay. So the agenda as stated here in the packet for all the citizens, with the subtraction of the GHA Christmas party, the addition of the 7th Street Park, the addition of a closed session at the end, and then we'll come back to open session to resolve the issue relating to the Department of Public Works Director. So in closed session, we'll be discussing personnel and Department of Public Works, and then come back into an open session and then adjourn. Good.
Council,
All right, yes.
Council.
Yeah.
Council,
Yeah.
Council Member Hill,
Yes.
Council Jones,
Yes.
Vice President Ferguson.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
vote 7.
Okay. First on the agenda is legislation. Madam Clerk.
The first resolution.
Yes.
Resolution 0-2023, sponsored, Derek Curtis, Council President. This sponsor at the request of administration. And it will introduced as a public hearing, first public hearing. And it is as follows. A resolution authorizing the city to enter into a contract with trash removal services. Whereas the city of Glen Arden's trash contract with GCI Residential Inc. expired on April 30th, 2022, and whereas section 18 contract procedure of the city charter requires that the city engage in a competitive bidding process for the procurement of goods and services with an estimated cost exceeding $6,000, and whereas the administration went through a competitive bidding process, request for proposal process, and to award a contract to the most responsive bidder to ensure that the residents of Glen Arden receive trash removal services. And whereas for the peace, health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Glen Arden, it is deemed necessary for the city to provide solid waste collection service to its citizens. And whereas the council has determined that it is in the public interest that the administration be authorized to select a contract. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of Glen Arden, Maryland, sitting in regular session this 19th day of September 2022, as follows. One, the administration is authorized to assume to award the RFP for residential trash removal services to the sole bidder, GCI Residential Inc. Two, the city is authorized to enter into said contract not to exceed $700,335 payable from the general fund, line item 10.75.10.7230. Three, the contract with GCI Residential Inc. is hereby attached as Exhibit A and incorporated herein. And four, the resolution that shall take effect immediately upon passage by the city council.
Is there a motion to bring this to the floor for a vote?
So moved.
First by Councilman Mayo, second by Councilman Reed. All right. Roll call.
Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Councilmember Young.
Yes.
Councilmember Henry.
Yes.
Yes. Vice President Ferguson.
Yes.
President Curtis.
Yes.
Vote carried 6-0.
Next up is resolution on 05/2020. Sponsored, the second council president, co-sponsor at the request of the administration. Public hearing was held on Tuesday, September. Introduction is today, Monday, September 19th. Resolution award one-year professional service contract with the option to extend for 2 additional one-year periods to SC company for annual audit services and authorize the city manager to negotiate non-material contract terms. Whereas under fiscal policy, the city's financial transactions and records are to be audited by an independent certified public accounting firm once annually, and the report be submitted to its city council on the results of the audit. And whereas the audit must be conducted in accordance with generally accepted government auditing standards applicable to financial audits established by the Government Accounting Standards Board and the Controller General of the United States. And whereas the city's policy is to tentatively review professional service contracts. And whereas on June 7th, 2022, the city issued a request for proposal for any audit services for a one-year contract covering audits for fiscal years 21 to 22 with 2 one-year extension options. And whereas the city received 3 proposals in response to RFP by the due date of June 24th, 2022. And whereas the review panel comprised of staff from the treasurer and city manager's office reviewed proposals and check references on SB and company. And whereas the scope of work described in the RFP is included in the city's proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 budget, and sufficient funds will be included in future budgets to cover the remaining costs of the contract. Looks like we received. Now therefore be resolved by the City Council of North Maryland, sitting in regular session this 19th day of September 2022, that the city of Grenada hereby awards a one-year professional service contract with an option to extend for 2 additional one-year period to SB and Company for annual audit services. And two, the city manager is hereby authorized to negotiate contract payment terms and non-material contract terms and conditions. And three, that the purpose of this resolution non-material shall be contract terms and conditions other than traditional to the overall contract amount, terms of payment, the general scope of services, and be it further or that notwithstanding the foregoing and any approval policy of the city to the contrary, the city manager expressly authorized to execute agreements and amendments to agreements that do not cause the total agreement value as approved here, and that does not expand the general scope of services. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon passage by the council. We have a motion to bring this to a vote. So moved. Second. Any discussion?
Councilwoman Reed,
Yes.
Councilwoman
Yes.
O'Hara,
Yes.
Jones? Yes. Vice President Ferguson? Yes. And President Curtis?
Yes.
Vote carried.
Resolutions. Next one is a resolution appointing elders functions to the
Resolution 07-2023, sponsored Derek Curtis, Council President, co-sponsored at the request of administration. Will be presented today, September 19th, 2020. A resolution appointing L. Funches to the Ethics Commission, whereas according to Glenarden Code, there may be a city of Glenarden Ethics Commission, which shall be composed of members appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council. And whereas the mayor wishes to appoint Elgin L. Funches to the Ethics Commission, and whereas the commission will serve to make more efficient and effective and efficient form of city government. Whereas the commission is a public body and must comply with the Maryland Open Meetings Act, and whereas the Ethics Commission bylaws attached hereto as Exhibit A have been adopted by the City Council under Resolution 135-2012 on May 14, 2012. Whereas the commission shall be advised by the city attorney and shall have responsibilities including but not limited to the following. Number one, devise, receive, and maintain all forms required by the Charter, Chapter 16, Ethics of the City of Code. Two, develop procedures and policies for the advisory opinion request and provide published advisory opinions to persons subject to this chapter regarding the applicability of the provisions of the Ethics Code to them. Three, develop procedures and policies for processing of complaints and make appropriate determinations regarding complaints filed by any person alleging violation of the Ethics Code. And four, conduct public information program regarding the purposes and application of the Ethics Code. 5, determine if changes to the code, the Ethics Code, are required to be in compliance with the requirements of the state government article Title 15, Subtitle 8, Annotated Code of Maryland, and shall forward any recommended changes and amendments to the City Council for enactment. And 6, adopt other policies and procedures to assist in the implementation of the Commission's programs established by Chapter 16 of the Code. Now, therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Glenarden, Maryland, sitting in regular session this 19th day of September as follows. 1, Eldon L. Peaches will be and he is hereby approved as an appointment to the City of Glenarden Ethics Commission. 2, the term of the office shall be 2 years, September 19th, 2022 to September 21st, 2024. And 3, this resolution shall take effect immediately following the approval of the council.
There a motion to bring this resolution to a vote?
So moved.
Second. Discussion?
So I will vote yes. Before I can say that, I just want to say this for administrative purposes. Lines on the side. Each time we start over again, she can continue. I believe that not going to be. It was like that in the other resolution. Make a vote.
Yeah, so moved.
I just want to.
Ready for that?
Yes, so we never met this time.
No.
I really think we need to get an appointments. I don't know who he is. I don't know. But I know he's the one that called that complaint. Petition to referendum, something, child resolution that we did, and he didn't follow those procedures. So, if I'm looking at this code, 3, 4, 5 things wrong. You follow that, I just back to that conversation. And also with that too, that, state code clearly outlines how you petition something to referendum. But that was the one follow. Like a follow up email saying we have this petition. And petition that will move forward because you never got signatures. Signatures that you require to get. So it's a whole process that needed to be followed. And it's the same thing in our ethics code. It's a whole process that you have to follow. But if you're not following the basic process for that, what makes it, I just question how it's going to follow the process for that. That's just not. Thanks.
Points, any other comments? Discussion? So already in motion. Okay. All right. Councilwoman Fareed,
Yes.
Councilwoman. Councilwoman,
Same.
Councilwoman Jones. Abstain. Council Vice President Ferguson. Council President Curtis. Yes. 3 yea, 1 nay. Abstentions. Fails. The vote fails. Is resolution R-08-2023. Sponsors Robert Jones, Council. Co-sponsor at the request of administration. Public hearing was on Tuesday, September 13th. Today, Monday, September 19th. Resolution authorizing the award of a tree brush removal contract with Mac and Sons Tree Expert for the clearing of an alley located at 7800 Johnson Avenue. Whereas the city of Glenarm requires the services of a tree removal company for the alleyway located with addresses of 7800 Johnson Avenue in the city. And whereas the city of Glenarm did solicit quotes for the work and only 2 quotes were received back. And whereas the city of Glenarm is awarded the contract pursuant to section 823 of the charter and the city of the city of Glenarm. And whereas Mackeson's tree expert has submitted the attached proposal dated August 24, 2022 to provide services. Now therefore be resolved by the City Council of Glenarm, Maryland, sitting in regular session 19th day of September as follows. The mayor and council president is authorized to execute a contract with Mackinson Tree Expert for the amount not to exceed $9,860. The source of the fund shall be I'll get to count here. 60-60-73-11, repair and maintenance streets. 3, the resolution shall take effect immediately upon passage by the city council. Motion to bring this.
So moved. Second. I just want to understand. Is the sole reason that Mac and Son was selected because of the price, or was there some other advantage to selecting Mac and Son compared to the other?
It was solely based on. Also, Mac and Sons has done professional work services for the city of Glenarm. Yes, they do a very professional job. They are, Mr. Mac has lived in the city of Glenarm over 60 years also, so he does some very professional service.
Yes, could we actually clarify on line 14 where it says, clearing the boundary located at 7900 Johnson Avenue? I think it's just at 7900 blocks of Johnson Avenue. That's like it's a residence. And also we have on line 16 too. And also on the title. Title is where it talks. So it's in.
Any other discussion?
Councilwoman June. Yes.
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 Councilmember Fareed.
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferguson.
Yes.
And Council President.
Yes.
Vote carries.
Next up. The resolution R05. Resolution authorizing award of professional service contracts to Murphy and City After Architects in connection with architectural.
Whereas the city of Glenarm requires services of a consulting architectural and engineering firm in connection with several projects in the city, and whereas the city did solicit a response for proposal for general architectural and engineering services through the fair and open process, and evaluated each firm as to its qualifications to provide these services. Whereas the city is awarded the contract pursuant to section 825 of the charter of the city of Glenarm, and whereas Murphy and Dittenhofer Architects possesses the necessary qualifications to undertake a project upcoming in the city and have submitted the attached proposal dated May 27, 2022, to provide services. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of Glen, Maryland, sitting in regular session on the 19th day of September 2022 as follows. 1. The mayor or council president is authorized to execute a professional services agreement in substantially the form of the attached with the firm of Murphy and Pitfold Architects for an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity IDIQ contract. 2. This agreement is awarded under Section 825 Professional Services, exception under the charter. 3. A notice inviting proposals for contractors to submit bids has been in circulation for at least 5 days prior to the awarding of the contract in the newspaper. And 4. The award of this contract shall be subject to the conditions that Murphy and Pitfold Architects provide all necessary documentation as mentioned in the RFP. The resolution shall take effect immediately upon passage by the City Council.
So moved.
Second.
Jones, any discussion? 1. It's in half, not it's in half.
Councilwoman Lee,
Yes.
Councilwoman Young.
Yes.
Councilwoman Young.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones. Yes. Vice President Ferguson. Yes. And Council President Curtis.
Yes.
Vote carries 6-0.
On to the next agenda item. Administrative reports.
Good evening, citizens, and good evening, City Council. Thank you all so much for being here this evening. So first off, for the mayor's report, I just want to acknowledge that we did have a resolution that was put forward for Youth Advisory Commission, which we've pulled off of the table because of not completing paperwork. That resolution was set for Ronald Mincy. We did have 2 ethic resolutions completed with Paul Braxton and Yvonne White. We did have an appointment, if you will, for 3 Glen Housing Authority commissioners, Gerald Field, Gerald Clay, and Ms. Dinah Price. Each one of those commissioners are on duty and have already had their first set of meetings. We did request that Glen Housing Authority 102325 gives the right to the city to examine the books and records. Following several complaints that came in from the Housing Authority, we were able to pull those books and records, and they all are in line with the expected audit. So those books did pass the review. We did put forth a request following actions for traffic calming measures. I see that we do have resolutions that are addressing the speed bumps, but we are further needing to address the consistency of ticketing violations that are happening across the city. And not only that, but the stop signs need to be reevaluated for their proper placement. We did sign paperwork for the 7th Street Park Playground Project, and we were able to corroborate with Mr. as well as Deacon Luther Jones, as well as Alex Gold out of the National Fitness Parks to actually get storage for the equipment. So those things are in line and ready for receipt. We supported 5 field office meetings over the course of the last month. We were able to actually receive a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award out of the Points of Life. So that Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award was for volunteer service, accumulating over 5,000 hours of service, 1,500 being served at the time, 500 pounds of food, 300 pounds of clothing. That was awarded from President Joseph R. Biden, United States 46th President. The Hope in Action Task Force, Hope Collective, was selected as the chairman for that Hope and Task Force. Essentially, we are breaking down what is disturbing our youth in our community to address the violence and the consistency of vehicular thefts and murders that are happening at the hands of 12 to 13-year-olds. The committee has had over 5 meetings now and has made some strides towards short and long-term strategies to prevent violence that's happening across Prince George's County. The Back to School Hope in Action Task Force, Back to School Bash, as well as the Transitional Youth Extravaganza, was supported by the Hope in Action Task Force in the Glen Community Center on August the 27th. 600 backpacks was delivered, and we also provided job opportunities for transitional youth 18 to 24. The Maryland Black Mayors was very instrumental in supporting that event as well. We was able to attend several Maryland Black Mayors events, as Maryland Black Mayors is making pathways for the new sessions that will start in Annapolis. We also attended an office call with Principal Barber, Josephine Woods, and the community school liaison, Ms. Pye Thatch. And we also supported Josephine Woods in back to school bash, essentially provided food to over 200 families, and also backpacks and more school supplies for those that were in need. We provided proclamations to Captain Wayne Jackson for his time served as acting chief of police, and also for the Glen Community Center, as well as the Maryland Park Police. We conducted forums for National Culinary Month. We also conducted forums addressing our schools and how we are coming back strong to support our students. We are reviewing the feedback that are coming in, not only from the community, but also from our employees on how well we're doing. We have created a survey that will come out in this upcoming newsletter. We're asking for each citizen to take heed to provide feedback as you see fit, so that we can improve our city. We are supporting the National Capitol Police as well in the multiple Red Cross drives that are happening. These Red Cross drives are phenomenal as it pertains to ethnic blood and helping us with sickle cell fighting, as well with COVID-19 still being rampant. It is an extreme need, particularly for our community. During the season, we were asked to come to Annapolis to testify on a few bills on behalf of the NAACP as well. And then we will be building a progressive relationship with an effective presence with the General Assembly in this coming year. We have looked forward to fiscal year 23 by discussing various community forums and extending those mayoral community forums to our executive leadership at the county and the state level. We have Maryland Department of Housing Community Development. We are looking at Project Restore to provide financial support to Maryland existing new businesses. And we're also looking to provide grant opportunities to businesses, including nonprofits, for expanding and moving and opening up new properties. With that, we are put into the budget this past year opportunity for us to evaluate our land for economic development, but also infrastructure revamp or new infrastructure that includes an expansion, if you will, consideration for the police department of the city of Glen Arc. Thank you so much. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Madam Crooks. Next up, we have City Manager.
Thank you, President Curtis, Mayor, Council, citizens, residents of Lenore. This month, the City Manager's Office worked with, in August, the City Manager's Office worked with the Code Enforcement Office to receive 100% compliance with those businesses that were out of date with their business license. We also conducted public works director interviews. We had multiple showings with the Gold Room and Community Center, booking 16 events in the month of August. We also worked with Human Resources for onboarding of our new administrative assistant in the administration. We had a realignment of code enforcement that put them into the police department and out of the administration department. We also worked on getting quotes for Ward 3 streets, and I'll talk with you more about those quotes. You all have received those by email. Let's see, the Gold Room had a total of 28 events. The Glen Arden Community Center at the Woodmore Town Center had a total of 4 events. That total our revenues was booked and held events was $9,801. We also purchased a sound system for the Gold Room and completed the fire marshal capacity inspection. Capacity is set at 330 persons. Human Resources, we concluded our Youth at Work Summer Youth Enrichment Program, came to an end on August the 12th. We had a farewell luncheon held in their honor. They were very instrumental for the summer and working with our various departments. I hope that they had a good experience working here and hope to have them back again next year. We entered on duty the administrative assistant, as I mentioned, for the administration, and also the deputy council clerk for the council. We are continuing to update personnel standard operating procedures in Human Resources, and we also continue to look at the compensation study that was done for the city, and we'll bring back to the council the results of that full report. We expect to have that in by the end of the month. The Webmaster Media Report you have in your books. You can see that we have pretty good metrics by the city, great metrics on our YouTube, social media, and also the lines that were supported from the Webmaster was National Night Out in 2022 on August the 2nd. We also supported the Police Award Ceremony, Back to School Bash for transitional age youth, the mega fest that was also happening. Also supported the mayoral office and legislative branch through website postings, including meetings, announcements, and worked with the mayor's sessions that she held throughout the month of August. Public Works supports the city through its beautification efforts and also in the Gold Room. They did do a number of cleanings and sanitizing throughout the City Hall building. The offices received some upgrades for keys and things like that. And also they did some landscaping on Glen Arden Parkway and the Municipal Center, undercutting the Freight Road. That's it for the administrative offices. I do have a couple of points that I'd like to bring to your attention and get some feedback from you all on. We have a request for a event in the Gold Room for December 31st. That event will be starting at 9 o'clock in the evening and continuing until 2 o'clock in the morning. Not that that's anything different from some of the other events that we have, except it's starting a little bit later. The fact that it is wanting to have 2 live bands is significantly different. And so that's why I wanted to get some feedback from you all. I haven't had a request for live bands in the Gold Room, and it does say in the rules and regulations that the bands are at the discretion of the city manager, but I still wanted to get some feedback from you all. And this event is a ticketed event, which I also have not had experience with in the Gold Room. And the tickets would be sold prior to the event, but not sold on site of the event. So I wanted to make you all aware of that and just get your feelings and feedback about whether or not that would be an event that we can support in the Gold
Comments by the council? If they burn 2 live bands, that means you're gonna lose capacity.
That's right. It would be mostly standing room with some tables for catering, and it is also going to have a cash bar.
So it's the band, they're not, are they go-go bands?
I do not know. They had indicated that one of the bands might be Rare Essence, which is a go-go band, and then the other band will be a jazz band. But they do not have a lineup for me at this stage. The gentleman's name is Wright, and he did come in and sign a contract, but I told him that I could not execute that contract with him without getting some guidance from the council first.
I think it was in the golden music stipulates that there are no go.
No go. Right, yeah, right. And he hadn't given me the lineup yet. He's still trying to secure the band. So if you'd like me to make that contingent, then I certainly can do that.
And also the hours of the go, I thought they were set that there was nothing after 1 AM, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it actually says that previously in the Golden Room for events, they go from 10 to 2, and that amount is $2,000.
I have a question. How are we defining a go-go event? Are we saying that if an event is playing go-go music at any point, that it's a go-go event and therefore they can't have it? What is a go-go event? What was their intent, if anyone knows?
But it's a go-go band. Yeah, go-go band. So they go-go music. Everybody knew who go-go bands are, SCU, Backyard, standard go-go band.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, what is considered a go-go event? Because it sounds like this is not an event which is solely or exclusively with one type of band.
But the rules is no go-go band. That's what we've all said. We've had issues in the past with go-go band. Brings out, even though now, you get, everybody's listening to go-go now, it's like 90s. But you still got some young people that are, like they had new impressions here for, they're not there. We want a really young crowd to beef up security. So that's why we tend not to have local bands in the building because it brings up numbers that we do not want. Local band, no matter what type of, no matter what other music you have, it's a local band issue.
Question, so does it mean that the event can't play go-go music?
Go-go band, and if you get another band that play go-go music, that's something different. But if you said no go-go band, they make themselves a go-go band. They got a following already. And that following is gonna come with it. I think that's the difference, because you can have a band and they come in and play go-go music, but people with the following that they don't have, it's gonna be, if it's a jazz band, plays jazz, that's who they're following. More the following than it is.
Sorry.
Which is, and I'm just asking for clarity. So understand that, let's say backyard store party, having in the go. So they're following the come. But if I, for example, want to have a party, and I'm doing it for my friends and hire the go-go band, well, my friends aren't there following.
Not the go-go band.
Not for their followers, but for my friends. And then what will be the difference between them actually playing live and me having a DJ playing strictly go-go?
You can have a DJ play whatever you want, but you can't have a go-go band. That's gonna bring the people into the room. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if you do it, what it might in Prince County police hear about it, they'll probably shut it.
So I just like to follow on to that question, because that was going to be my question for the barber. Is this a private event or is this an open event?
It's an open event, tickets to the event.
Okay,
So, but tickets will not be sold on site. So, and we would control what the tickets look like. We would control the advertisement of the event. But it is a ticket.
I have one more question. Even if we don't go around and they have to bring two different things. Is where the surge from the safety from 9 to 2
very concerned. The big concern, you talk about go-go bands, like Mr. Harris said, Ms. Jones, Councilman.
Good evening, everyone. Chief Bryant, in reference to the question, in reference to the go-go bands, as stated earlier by council members Herring and council member Jones, go-go bands traditionally in DC, Maryland, and Virginia has a designated following, which encountered problems with the history and culture of the go-go bands in these areas, beefing with other go-go bands and people from different areas of the city, from the culture. So with that being said, in the district where I previously worked, in Maryland, Prince George's County in particular, and as the legislation says with go-go bands, I'm glad it's in there, because if we do have a go-go band, you're talking about potential for problems. I know Glen Island Police Department don't have the manpower to actually man that event, because we do have to keep our citizens safe in the city of Glen Island. And like Mr. Herring, Ms. Jones said, if the county finds out about it, they'll have to be involved and most definitely shut it down, per Chief Aziz. Especially with the stuff we got going on now with the curfew violators in a particular timing, which won't be followed, and it'll be here in the city of Glen Island. So I think that'll be a big problem for us as a municipality and a county. So in the different variations. So like you said, President, for example, say somebody decides they want to have a party and invite this go-go band. What Mr. Herring and Ms. Jones is telling you, these groups have a particular following. They put out flyers, they announce it. And so the beef usually be about, we're gonna shut this band down, shut that band down. And from my knowledge of being ERT commander in DC, we had to respond out to several events where we had to shut down. We had to call a SWAT team because of the propensity of the crowds and the violence that were obtained during these events. So I totally agree that should not be a part of this in the city of Glen Island, especially for the Gold Room, in that closed environment where we'll have to take extra measures, where we have to put up metal detectors and so forth, and we'll have to actually go outside the city of Glen Island Police Department and call in the county, and I'm pretty sure the county won't be involved with that.
So, follow-up question to that.
Yes, sir.
If there are no go-go bands, just a regular, jazz band or classical music, still be an open event from 9 to 2 a.m., would that be a problem?
Anytime it's an open event, when you're selling tickets, I deem that as a problem. Because a lot of times in these open events, once again, you got people that weren't invited coming up to see what's going on. Then you see this person that they came from that part of town and so forth. That causes problems. Anytime you have these events, especially when you're selling tickets. When you're selling tickets, you have to advertise. So once you start advertising, that means you got to put up flyers the way you advertise. And once people see these advertisements, somebody they might be looking for, oh, I know they'd be at that event. So it's one of the things that breeds that type of violence, and it's the history of it. So.
Any other comments, questions?
I'll just say that I hope citizens speaking about the following that will come. with
Exactly.
the band. And if we're looking at the Gold Room regulations, that these are correct. All hear me? I think we do need to be clear as for on this. I haven't seen it yet, but when I look at types of event under fee schedule, it does show 10 to 2 a.m. as being permissible under cabaret style. Well, I know what cabaret means, so let me just look it up for sure. But we do want to be clear when we do update or revise or however we want to call it, we stipulate the ticketed part that she just mentioned. So just want to go on record and say that.
And I'm glad that the city manager brought that up in this forum, because, like you said, the history with the fallen, and by no means it's the band itself, you know. I'm pretty sure anybody that grew up in the area know a lot of members from a lot of these different bands. So it's not targeting the individual bands themselves. We're just talking about the fallen, and this be, like I said, a very bad time, especially the curfew violations for juveniles in Prince George's County. So it wouldn't be a good look for the city of Glen either.
And I do want to echo what Chief said, but Councilwoman Guillaume said it isn't anti-go-go. As a matter of fact, like I said, in 2019, we had a go-go band here at Glen. We did a great job. Everybody enjoyed it. You know, we did beef up security. We had to get Portland some peace. We got to get our police in full force. But I mean, everybody enjoyed themselves, and so it isn't that. I just think in that situation, in that closed environment, when you're talking late at night and, people running back and forth to their trunks, and they're going to have a cash bar. That's another issue. So like I said, another instant goes on that goes will be. Well, that room is what we're trying to move towards. I don't think right now. I mean, I don't think that's something that we want to have in there. And I think we had it before. We had it in the 80s. That was a major issue that we did have in there. And that's why we said no more go-go. Together, we got to hang.
And I'm also like to include also the date is 12/31, which is New Year's Eve. So that would be for Glenarm Police or any police department.
And we dedicate that time towards our citizens. As all my officers and myself will be working that, and then for New Year's Eve. Thank you.
What do you want to have this open in that?
Get open at all, or it's gonna have to be modifications. We're saying that the police statement no program. So we need to. I think that's.
It's what Chief said, is that it's an open event, it's not a private event. So it's open to the general public. They pay, they get in, and then the risk that brings for police officers all over. From what I heard from Chief Brian, that is very important.
Yeah, so on that particular piece, I think we need to do a little bit more thought to that as we're constructing the goal. Not to blankly say, we'll need, I can think of many different fundraisers, charity events that would be selling tickets for, tables, that would be, open. It wouldn't be like someone's own private party. So I think we need to give some more thought to that. So I'm not comfortable to vote on that right now. But if we're talking about this specific party, I'm not sure really what there is to weigh in on, because the vote will state at this point that there's no go-go ban. So it's really to go back to the event organizer and state, if you're having this party, then you can have the go-go ban. Now, if there is a concern about it being on that date, I mean, it doesn't say that the vote room is not available on December 31st. It doesn't state right now in the contract that it's only these hours on these days.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so, let me go back and talk and, yes.
I'll confirm with him if he has any more information on the band. I think we'll work with the chief on whether or not it's the event that can be handled.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do feel that rules need to be, as they state, they can be applied. I mean, if it says no go-go, then no go-go, but other bands are permissible, and they are open to the public. But if you were going to take any type of consensus, it would be the consensus to waive the rules for go-go. Barbara was actually asking. And I think that right now we need to keep the rules effective. So, we don't get. If you say this band and that band and that band like that, we're going to get off the team. Right now it says no go-go, so no go. I'm with a jazz band. That's different.
I see their heads in the citizens. There'll be a portion of citizens comments.
I just have one more thing that I need. So, you all received an email from me, there was an email on information from Gordian about streets in Ward 3. It was a while ago, but it was the streets with the $1.6 million price point. And I had asked whether or not there was a consensus for the most egregious streets that we would like to focus on, because we certainly, with the money in the budget, can do all of the streets that were allocated, that we asked them to evaluate. And I only heard that from 2 council members. And I wanted to see if you all had an opportunity to review that and to give me a sense of what those priority streets might be based on what we have in the budget, or how you like to see, because time is of the essence because of the price of crude oil and asphalt. So they've given me a price that was given to me at the beginning of the month that is changing daily. And so they can't honor that price for too long without it changing. So I wanted to see if I could get something.
Oh, so, Ms. Barber, so you're saying the price is $1.6 million to do all of Ward 3?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I asked. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what it was gonna be. That's why I was encouraging us to try to get. So we got like what, 235,000, something like that?
There's 250,000 for street paving, curbs and gutters, and specifically for Ward 3 streets, there's $179,865.
Okay.
Thank you. So what is the contractor saying? Do they have a ranking? I mean, I honestly don't feel qualified to make an assessment of like which street is the worst. I mean, there's some streets that we know are pretty bad, but I wouldn't know even how to compare them to say which one is in more need of repair than the other. I would be relying on the experts to provide, you know, a ranking at least to say, you know, these are your top areas that you need to focus on for these reasons. I would feel more comfortable to evaluate and say.
Okay. They did not get the ranking. They are the contractors, so they can do the work. I think what might be more fruitful and useful is to have information from the engineer. And we did have the Ward 3 street study that was done that we have information on that a couple of years old. I believe.
At this point,
Might be worse. Right. So that would be my answer to the question. If we could go back and look at that study and see if that jives with what you all's what the residents have told you is their preference, or we could have an evaluation update from those engineers.
Thank you. Listening to the residents living in Ward 3, their preference is that all of Ward 3 gets repaid, because Ward 1 and Ward 2 have been repaid a couple of times. Ward 1 by WSSC because they did some work over there and then it was repaid again. And Ward 2 was done, and Ward 3 has not been done in years. So the residents in Ward 3 have been looking to have Ward 3 repaid for a while. Now, we did last year when, not last year, but when Mr. George was here as city manager, he was able to get the parking lot here done, and Barcroft, what is that, Lavelle, the Lavelle Street, Lavelle Court, and all down to Gary, just at the corner of Gary and Jeff, and then Gary Court was done. So that's why with my submission, that we would just go ahead and finish that area, Cousins, Jeff, Tyrone, Gary, and that part of Jeff Road, it's not, Gary, it's not completed yet. Because we're not, I think what you're saying is we're not gonna spend the whole, we don't have the whole 1.6 million to do, but the monies that we do have would probably be enough to address those streets. And then once the budget is gone over again, more money is put into the budget, and we can finish Glenard Parkway and then the number streets.
Right.
Because I think on 5th Street, they had some Fifth Street and I think Second Street, they had some, gutter issues, and those were corrected in the last, when they first started to do the Ward 3 streets.
Can I, if you could provide some context on why the streets that were started, why were they selected? Were they selected because they were the worst in the city, or in Ward 3, or was it just like a start here with the expectation that we would kind of move?
I think it's the Jewish list determined that he would start and come forward.
Yeah. And so that would be my concern, because if those are not the worst streets, to focus on those streets when we don't have the money, I think would not be, and it's a tough conversation about being fair, but what would be fair would be for all of Ward 3 to be done. So, you know, that would be my concern, is that we're not focusing on where our money can be maximized. I think it's a little bit more than just how bad the street is, but also what type of traffic that street gets, et cetera. You know, there's a, you know, if something on Winter Parkway is an example, that's a through street, right? A lot of people go that way. It might make sense to focus there, but again, not knowing what the structural issues are from the engineer, we might have to fix a street that doesn't have cars traveling on it very often, because whatever's in the infrastructure could be very damaging if it's not addressed. So I think I feel like we need to get that information from engineers in order to make that.
I think the deterioration is just almost about the same for most of the streets, but the one thing that I have been made apprised of but have not looked into is some of the citizens on, I think, Jeff Road are telling me that tractor trailers from Costco are now riding their streets. And because they have low hanging electrical wires, that's kind of, I would have to see that. I would have to, you know, see them doing that, because I've seen another truck that's like almost the size of an 18-wheeler that went through there and took the wires down. That's why I'm having a hard time I would have to see those vehicles going through. They were saying that they're having a lot of traffic from the Costco, the tractor trailers from Costco are coming through Jeff Road. But that, like I said, that is something that I have not visualized or witnessed yet. You know, to see that being done. But I know it happened on Cousins, where they just took the wires down when they went through there. So I'm not seeing the tractor trail, but that's something that, you know, we need. But I think the deterioration of the streets in Ward 3 is, they're deteriorating just enough where.
Yeah, Mr. President. I mean, it was an assessment done on those streets, and that's what we used to gauge what we were going to do. I think they did a couple of the number streets. As a matter of fact, when they started doing some of the number streets, we actually realized that they tapped into a spring. That made the streets even worse. So we had, and I think that was under Mr. Bias when he was the one that started working on some of the number streets. He was the one that addressed the spring issue, which is what we weren't even expecting to run into, and that was another $6,000 to divert that. So I think, I mean, my thing is we keep on going around and around. We got an assessment that was already done. The streets didn't get any better, you know, and I think we need to utilize that assessment and get moving with getting some of these streets done, because we're in October. The black top houses are going to close down in, I think, November, like around November 11th or something like that. So I think we just need to move forward, because again, another assessment, you know, waiting around. I think we need to really just get started. Personally, I think we should have just put 1.6 in the budget and got it on. That was been my point. I mean, right, Ward 1, it was done by the city, then the whole thing was done again by WCC. Ward 2, the whole thing was done by the city. And Ward 3 has been patched up. I mean, one reason was because WCC was actually cutting up the street, so we kind of waited around for them to finish. And instead of them patching up curb to curb, it just patched up, you know, sections. So I think right now, I mean, Ward 3 hasn't been done. As a matter of fact, that Pricey Road and then our Parkway is horrible. To the point where you can barely see the lines that people are cutting and cars in front of each other. You know, so I think that's something we need to get that assessment out and just move forward based on that. So we can just get started and get something done within the next month. Before they do, I mean, as Barbara says, the oil prices go up, that the cost goes up every time.
And Ms. Barry, does that assessment have a prioritization of the
Yes,
streets?
it actually graded all the streets. I think it's from 1 to 10. 1 being the worst, 10 being the best.
I mean, that seems reasonable to me.
Thank you. Yeah, I think there was the one thing that you and I talked about. Permit review. The town council. And so just to give you all some information, I got a call, an email from Crown Castle. They work with the telecommunications with like T-Mobile and Sprint to put up these small cell wireless devices. They would like to put them in the city. I did look at the legislation that you all passed regarding that, I think in 2020. And one of the things that you all do not have is an application that is referenced in the resolution. I did contact Mr. Karpinski and he said that he did not work on anything for the city to have a application. And so he and I were going to work on that. But what is also needed is part of the permit review committee, which was mentioned in the resolution. And I pulled some information that I had in my office about the permit review committee. Some of those members are no longer in the city, so I didn't know if you all wanted to reappoint those positions or how you wanted to move forward with that, so that I could respond back, because these things are timely in nature. You have to respond back to them and have them apply, and after they apply, you have to respond back to them. This is all from the FCC requirements for these telecommunications companies, so I just wanted to put that in mind.
Mr. President, normally when we do not have a permit review committee, the council has to sit the committee. So you get something in here, we had to do that with more on a number of cases, we have a committee to vote on permits and do the permits and everything else. But that vote on potentially anything for the council. So they're not, So do they say that they want to put these things?
They
I
have
don't
not indicated where they would like to put them. Normally, they co-locate them on either poles, or light poles, or they try to put them on a pole that the jurisdiction may have. But they have not indicated that yet. They just indicated they want to put them in the city of Lenore and reference where, where they could get the application for.
Yeah, definitely want to stay on top of that, because like they're unsightly.
Right.
And they don't put them up high either.
Right.
Very high. You see it's just sticking out on a telephone pole right there. It's 5G.
So right now, it's just waiting on.
So I, Mr. Harry said you all.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, yeah, so
Yeah.
what's next?
The application.
Application.
Yes, it is.
But the council is at least willing to sit. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Treasurer Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Members.
One second. Turn yours off and use the mayor's screen.
Here we go. This is the treasurer's report for June 30th, 2022. These are financial highlights going to be looking at. We're looking at revenue and expenditures for the month or 2022. As of June 22, total revenues are 7,308,063, and expenditures or expenses were 4,153,000. and 27. These activities resulted in a fiscal year to date revenue exceeding expenses by $3,155,626. Putting this in context, that $3,155,626 are come from surpluses from general fund of $776,820. Special revenue fund surplus at $2,246,478. And this number too, I should put into some context. But that $2,161,000 actually came from the ARPA fund and was not used in the year 2022. However, usage will commence in 2023. Citation. E-camera surpluses was $51,875 and PG grant was $32,990. Capital fund was $170,799, resulting from insurance recovery of $39,808 for the repair of a air conditioning unit that was done the prior year, and we actually received it in 2022 fiscal year. Highway user fund of $120,000. Reimbursement from the open space grant, that's for the NLK part. We had $8,480, which actually came from funds that were used in 2021. Enterprise fund. As I said, they're still struggling with cost overwhelming revenue of $29,471. As the city completes the fiscal year 2022, real property tax installment receipts for the month of June 2022 was $9,580 compared to $16,000 in the previous year. The subsequent review real property tax in August 2022, the city had refunded $2,912, and this was due to transfers of ownership. At the end of June 2022, collection of for general fund amounted to $4,718,270. These were broken down as local taxes, which turned $3,883,000. License and permits was $61,855. State grant was $68,523. And service charges, which includes street lights and special assessment, was $543,750. Other financial sources was $160,842. Personal property tax. In the month of June 2022, the city had collected personal property tax in the amount of $2,342. This was for the tax year 2021 to 2022. We had additional billings of $1,621,000 in the balance of $30,046. Now I need to clear this up so that everyone can understand. Personal property tax is those assessments that we charge or businesses based on their assets. The businesses actually had to go on SDAT to register their assets. And sometimes they take months, even years before they assess. So when you do get those numbers, that's when we actually charge them. So for some months like June, when we see an additional charge of just $1,600, that is the amount of that have certified. But we just have to find a way to follow up with the businesses to ensure that they file on time. I'm actually working on that. All receipts for the month of June was $3,188. However, the same time last year, there was collection of city and then quality operations. So these are the operations of funds from the general funds revenue, which we had budgeted $4,776,000. There was a shortfall of approximately 1%. But still, I must put this in context also, in the sense that state income tax, which is individual tax collection, was 234,000 more than what we had. Fingerprints, 2,222. State grant, we got 8,500 more. And franchise fee, 57,000 more. However, there was some that fall below expectation. There was permit fees, 163,000 less than what we had budgeted. Live scan was $21,000 less. Other taxes was $115,000 less. Local government, this is the pilot folder, was 19,000 less. Other financial source, 4,600. That's that one. For general fund expenditures for expenses, we had budgeted $4,825,550. Spending was below expectation also in these categories, or in all categories, except for the trash removal. Trash removal, we went over by 33,680. And this was mainly due to, at the end of the year, we had that CPI adjustment kind of hit us. But we be prepared for it next year. Salaries and benefits were below 407. Professional fees, supplies, 13,000. Training and conferences was 50,000 below what was budgeted. Right before. In most of the expenses in general fund, we were below what we had budgeted. So that really helped with us coming out with some. I looked at capital projects, and I am skipping over the special fund because these are areas we could, as we receive funds in from special fund, expense those expenditures in general fund and pass those transfers over general fund. So now I look at the capital expenditures. Capital revenue, we had budgeted $1.675 million. We had 84% below what we were expecting. Most of this is because we did not do that much with regard to capital expenditures. Because as we do more in capital expenditures, we'll be able to transfer more funds over for the revenues to come the expenditures. And capital project expenditure, we have $999,000. And we only use 10% of that. But I can tell you that with capital expenditures, those monies are not closed out at the end of the year. They are brought forward to the proceeding. Cash update. The city cash balance remains sufficient to pay all outstanding bills as they become. Current bank balance as of September 1 was 11,111,129. This is mainly due to funds we received from ARPA. So ARPA funds by itself is $4,323,000. The funds that we are holding in operating, or the main operating account, are the ARPA fund, $6,787,000. Forbearance has 7,000. Bolu has 128,000 of grant. And the people grant has our that account is only 120,000. Goes out, I'm looking at the offer. I feel that the offer funds that were accepted by the city was not used in prior year. Grant was projected, or we had projected to have grants for the HOAs, assistance to the 7th Street amenities, and assistance to nonprofits and residents, and for the ADA sidewalk and stormwater. I know we have budgeted for this year, so I know that we're going to start putting funds together to the ARPA funds, and we have also been interviewing individuals for the project management. And the MLP grant, it has 147,000. But I think we have started to do something. SORA has started with 70,000 for a society.
It's like half of grant.
But I must warn that we may be a little behind in the sense that we have 147,000. And this bill was 149,000, so we get it over. It's getting reimbursed by the grant. That is question. That's back to
Right, so my contact at the recreation department, he is out of town this week, but we are planning to break ground on the I'm just waiting to hear back from him on what the delivery date is. So it should be somewhere between the last week of September, beginning of October. And if you all wanted to do a small groundbreaking for that, or how you want to see, want to have a stand there about that, or come in and start.
I just wanted to start the work.
All right,
I do have a question, not related to that. And I did hear have to ask you this. City Manager Barber and I did hear the Trevor mention it a few times. While I looked at the human resources specialist report for all this, project manager, eligible candidates for that, so we do have some candidates that are being interviewed.
Yes, it's an interview, and have candidates that we're working with. Fingerprinted.
And so we're doing that right now, right? Just to be, and I'm only asking because obviously it just has to be with right. What we did with some of the parties that we passed, so that's.
Are we clear? Let me say, I'm just looking at, so, that point yet?
No, we contacted.
Good evening. We've contacted the individual. He's out of town. I'm hoping for him to get back in town. He has the paperwork to complete, and he will contact me as soon as he gets back and schedule the drug test and everything. So it's in the works, but it's not in the works. Thank you.
Yes, I do have some questions for the treasurer. Have we been reimbursed for the demolition of buildings? And so it's 147 that.
The 70,000 that has the.
Okay, I do have a problem for the personal property. Every year, we're supposed to get a listing from the state of all the stores in our jurisdiction. With personal property tax, with the personal property, the value of the personal property is based on, what they got. We should be getting that every year. So they should be shooting you an email. And we should be invoicing based on that. So you may want to reach out to the state because they're required to send that to us. I think it's at the same time we get February, sometime around there. But it should be a file that was given to send out every year to the treasurer for that personal property tax. Amount you got to be on there, every store on there, and what the value is of their personal property. So you may want to check that out.
So what we've done is the personal property tax for utilities. They send that to us every year.
Everything.
But personal property tax with regard to all the other businesses, we have to be monthly going online to see who have certified so that we can find that very tedious.
Because normally,
On that, and what happened as well, they have some businesses are at 2020 right now. So I'm trying to figure out if the market for it is there. Like the last year, those who were defined and those who were built and did not pay, I send them to like. So whenever they go into doing a business, they are stuck. Have to. As a matter of fact, the court, certain court will come us to say, is this company or this business in, in compliance with you or not? But in February, I had sent them a list of all the businesses who were in compliance, who were not in compliance. They have been working. Funds are coming. But the part that's eating it is the part where they are not certified in time. 2019, 2020, 2021, we're going into 20. So that is the next challenge that every city. And the other thing too, are certified numbers that I don't think is correct. Some are certifying zero. Some are certifying $100. Businesses, you know, assets of $100. That's strange to me. So there need to be some assessment, some going in. That's the.
I know there is a report that you should get from the state. That's on. It should be coming to you in the email every year. It's not coming from the county, because the county doesn't do personal property. But that should be coming from the state. And you go to the county, and like you say, you know, have an issue with it and not paying. So that, of course, they're gonna put $100, but the county, you need to assess a value to the inventory based on previous records. And then they gotta, either they're gonna appeal it, or they can't, like you do with your real property taxes, with your real estate property taxes. But you should be getting something. It really should. I mean, you used to send us a book this thick with all that information, and then you can just run it through the county and say, okay, these are the personal property taxes that we need to do. Put out to the form. So, I mean, yeah, we want to look into that, because we should not be on the $50,000. I mean, those bills should be going out in June for the following, that along with business license. I mean, that's something you may want to look into. Another question, looking at this report, page 1 of the revenues on the detail, we have on here permit fees of almost over $150,000 that have zero current year actual. It's permit fees for Woodmore Town Center, Peach Ross, Building, Penrose, and retail commercial. Obviously, we're not getting any of that. Is that included in this year's budget also?
We have included. The only one I can remember did not include was future.
And have we heard from Penrose on where they are with the development or whatever?
I have not yet. Yeah, I am saying that I need more input on the
Right, I mean, normally you would just check parking plan and see if it's for any permits. I don't think they have, normally they come to us first. Talk to us about the new segment that they can ready to build, and I haven't heard anything about any new segments up or, yeah, I haven't heard any. I don't know where they are with that. That might be a conversation that we need to say, there's not only information on what they're doing, but also for your information. Also these reports, so when do we expect to get the
Okay, so I should talk about that. So the next meeting will be presenting both July and August. Brought us up to. But the June and July report will be. July.
Now, another question, on salaries, I see you said $471,000 under budget salaries. Under regular size, we're showing, we're $207,000 under budget. I don't, do we have that many vacancies in June? And I know we had some of the higher level positions. And I know we didn't have enough services to cover those. We didn't move any money from salaries down to professional services to cover yours and whoever else is within position that temporary position.
Right, so we have 10 years yet, but before the year end, or before I close off for audit. Go through these. Because temporary employees are over by 104,000, and we have so much funds in the regular salaries. Right. So share. to have that settled before.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Next up is.
Good evening. Let me give y'all a proper greeting. Mayor, city manager, treasurer, council clerk, city council, our citizens here presently. I know all their names, by the way, Ms. Butler, Ms. Wilson, Ms. Powell, and everyone watching online. I won't be going through this report line for line, but I'll be highlighting some key things in reference to this report, starting from July 20th through August 19th, 2022. One of the biggest problems we had was a pit bull running at large on Jeff Road for a period of time where we get calls here and there. And I'd like to personally thank Councilwoman Jones, who was instrumental in helping Lieutenant Robinson with information to help him actually secure a warrant to get that dog that was running at large, terrorizing kids, the neighborhood and so forth. Actually getting a warrant prepared on the 20th, we was able to close it on the 24th after getting additional information, getting that pit bull out of the city of Glenarden. Also, we had several events that occurred at 7-Eleven right across the street. Starting out with a individual that came into the store and left a bag by the counter, and we got a call from employees in the store. We recovered that bag that was left there. Had a Glock firearm in it, a loose ammunition magazine that could carry up to 52 rounds and so forth. All the stuff was inside the bag. It was turned over to the police department. We did see the individual on camera that came back in looking for it, and it was at this time he didn't get it, so he jumped into his vehicle and left the scene. And that was early in July, well, at the end of July 24th. We didn't get the information we needed. We got a brief description on the car, but we've been keeping in touch. We've never seen an individual come back to the store. And they, by the way, 7-Eleven have a great surveillance system. I wish more of these locations would have that. I'll talk about other 7-Eleven events a little bit later in my report. I did hear, as the city manager stated, code enforcement August 1st. So code enforcement is now in the police department. So any questions, concerns can be directed to me. And I will keep city manager in the loop and city council and mayor about strides we made and changes that I've made with code enforcement. August 2nd, of course, we had a National Night Out, which was pretty successful until the end, where we had a neighborhood incident, which is actually in the courts at this time. They just had a court date on Friday. I spoke to both individuals involved this past Saturday at Glenarden Day, and trying to make strides and peace within the Glenarden Housing Authority. Both individuals were receptive to my concerns and the concerns of Glenarden Housing Authority and our citizens. August 5th, in the shopping center, Campus Way in Ruby Lockhart, about 6 in the morning, we had theft from auto. Once we responded to the scene, we got a call, also got an additional call for another theft from auto. He asked the dispatch for a description. She gave him a description. He said, she said a black Honda Accord. She said, okay, I'm right here with the vehicle on 2901 Campus Way. She said, no, it's another vehicle on 9450 Ruby Lockhart, which would happen to be another black Honda Accord. In both of these instances, the rims were stolen from these vehicles, all 4 rims, while one individual was in the gym and other individuals at the hotel over there. This happened, like I said, August 5th. So the officer went and checked around, checked the camera at Hampton Inn. Come to find out it's a black Toyota Sienna with two individuals with some equipment where they can take these tires off extremely fast. And they were hitting the area, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. We got hit on August 5th, and then we got hit again last Thursday morning, September 15th, by the same individuals. In between that time, I've met with Prince George's County Police Department, Division 3 Major, and they have an undercover car unit. I shared the information with them from the information I received. I also have my officers at a certain time responding to that area, looking out for that vehicle, in hopes of catching those individuals involved in taking these rims. What makes them so popular is that these rims on these new models from 2020 all the way to 2023, which is current, can fit on any Honda Accord. So if you have a 1991 Honda Accord, these rims will fit on there. And so these design of these rims and stuff, they're a very popular item. So like I said, they're hitting Maryland, DC, and Virginia. So our goal in Glenarm is to shut this operation down and catch these individuals. I do have some good information in reference to description of the vehicle. Of course, they have temporary tags from Pennsylvania listed to individuals that have nothing to do with this tag. So we do have some good information, and we, like I said, we do have a strategy to try to apprehend these individuals. So on August 10th, got a call at 7-Eleven. It's a subject that frequent that store. He usually go in that store. He's well known to the employees and known by the police for stealing out of that store. So this particular night on August 10th, the individual went into the store and stole some property, and he got into a blue Mini Cooper. Officers were in the area when they responded to 7-Eleven. They got a description when camps in the area. Found the individual in Mini Cooper, which was stolen. Attempt to stop the vehicle. He took off at a high rate of speed. Then when he got on the wrong side of the road, going towards traffic, officers cut off pursuit and the individual got away. The next day, this individual came back to the store, just hanging out in the store. So we get a call. By the time we get to the store, he already jumped into a vehicle that was running. People got a tendency to leave the vehicle running and go into these stores. And he jumped into a vehicle and took off with that vehicle. The next day he came back up, saw a vehicle running, passenger in the vehicle sleeping. When he got in the driver's side, the passenger jumped out and ran in the store. He took that vehicle. So I had my officers do a surveillance over there. So when he came back 2 days later, officers in the area, he came to the store in another stolen vehicle. Officers waited till he left the premises, got him in the secure area. He jumped out of the vehicle, ran, apprehended, ran some checks on him. He's wanted for warrant by the sheriff's department, the U.S. Marshals, and that person is apprehended and no longer in the streets. And so that's pretty much the events we had as far as crime. I know Councilwoman Jones did ask about the traffic cameras and the proceeds that we got supposed to get from previous years. I'm working with the treasurer on that. We're making some leeway in reference to that. We're able to we found some information from Ms. Allen that she had on file. So we're working on that and try to recuperate that money. We're talking approximately $11,000 between Maryland, DC, and Virginia. So we hope to get that. The issue with that is when these individuals go to renew their tags, they don't get a penalty for it, so they're not paying fines. Some we're saying about 40% from what I'm seeing right now paid. The other 60% haven't because it doesn't affect them renewing their tags. So I know some jurisdictions they have a collection agency that send them to credit bureaus and so forth, but I don't know if we have that in place. If we don't, that's something we probably need to look at. to recuperate our money down the road. And I've recently assigned my officers to make sure that each shift, during each tour, when officers are working, that we're covering all wards, Ward 1, Ward 2, and Ward 3. I gave them some key areas to cover. Also do a daily activity report and get that information to me, so I can make sure we have the coverage and make sure we're covering all the wards and serving our citizens in the city of Glenarden. And they also advise to areas that they frequent where they find new issues and concerns in the wards to let me know about it and also list it on their daily activity reports. I have been getting some feedback from community members who are very pleased with that, and I'm happy to hear that. And one more thing, in reference to the rents with the stolen Hondas and stuff, I did post that information that'll be coming up in the upcoming newsletter that's, I think, is being published when there tomorrow or day after. Yes, day after tomorrow. So that information will be in there, and that's all I have. Thank you very much.
I have more questions. If it's not too late to add this to the newsletter, if you can please, if it's not already in here, communicate to citizens about the pitfold restriction. I think that many are not as aware as we think they are about that restriction, or not aware that it's actually going to be enforced.
Okay. Good point. Thank you very much.
Yes, I do have a question. Chief, code enforcement.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at their report.
Mhm.
For officers. Citation. That's it. Three officers. So I would like to ask if I could get list of the citations and the number of citations per officer.
Also,
I do have a very big problem with us having 2.5 officers. And I'm looking at 5 citations. And I'm walking through the neighborhood and seeing violations myself as I walk through. And as I drive through, I can drive out in the morning time, come back in the evening. So what the violations are, or if they're not citing them, or what?
well, I did have them attend training with a DPI. They did a course with them where they got information, and one of my biggest things was to get a contact from DPI to assist them with some issues and concerns they may have that's consistent with our guidelines. But what I did in addition to that is they have to report to me at the end of tour every day, an end of shift report, what they did for that particular day, what addresses they visited and so forth. And we get everything in place, but I will get the information to you, and you will see more citations in the future.
I think my issue also with taking the DPI, that they think that we follow DPI. We have our own codes.
Right.
That they need to follow. And I've heard before, where the county doesn't do this, so we don't follow this. Now, we have
Right.
our own codes. We need to follow our codes.
Right, and I did do a comparison. I spoke to DPI. We need to update our code too, because a lot of fines we're charging are way too low. They need to be upgraded, updated. So I'm looking into that. But basically, you brought up a good point. It's some things that they do that we don't, but it's a lot of things they do, like basic things they do that my guys need to start doing. Thank you.
Another issue, I'm looking at the report also, this house at 33 H Street, I know it's a bounce back and forth with that retaining wall. So the retaining wall is built, and they set the fence on top of the retaining wall. That's a straight code violation. No fence should be higher than 6 feet.
Right.
That fence should be on the ground, and the retaining wall should be in front of the retaining wall behind it. On top of that retaining wall, making that fence 10 feet high. Also, one thing I do that really bothers me is that our code says if you violate the code, if you build something without a permit, not only do you get cited, but they have to take it down. A lot of these people build these things and they get cited, they get fined $1,000. They don't mind paying $500 and getting it up. But if they had to take it down and get fined because they didn't ever permit, then I think they were to get around it. You can't do that. Right now, they don't care. I seem to have it open driveways with additions on houses. Not even the county hasn't even signed. Hasn't even permitted, you know, so I think we need to look at it.
And there's very good questions, very good things brought to my attention, and things I will address and get improvement on. So I most definitely appreciate all input from everybody, from the eyes and assistants.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. So I'm having a challenging time trying to kind of reconcile everything and see where we are with the 7th Street Park. So I'm bringing it up again and just want to understand where we are in relation to the resolutions that have been passed. So the first is that Resolution 5, 2022 is kind of what kicked off this with the 7th Street Park. And that resolution is specifically for the installation of a playground. So the first thing that was supposed to happen was an application for a grant to cover the cost of the design and purchasing the equipment. So, and then later we were supposed to select a designer. So with the grant and the cost of the design, what was the grant that we applied to for the playground?
So we applied for a grant to the Community Legacy Grant. We are a sustainable community through DHCD, and we applied for the Community Legacy Grant for the playground.
And that's the grant that is comment period is ending this month.
Yes.
Okay. And then we were supposed to select a designer. In our last meeting, our last work session rather, you indicated that CPJ was doing a site plan. When is that correct?
We had asked them to do a site plan, but it's on hold because of the listening session that you wanted to do. So I had asked them if you would, and I asked you if you wanted to have them attend the listening session. So they agreed that if their schedules allow, they will attend the listening session that you are having on October the 8th.
Yes, yeah. Okay, but so just backing up a little bit, how do we get the CPJ?
CPJ is already under well, I would say they're under contract. They had a contract with the city, and we've been utilizing them as a matter of practice because they've been ongoing in some of the projects for Woodmore Town Center. And so I reached out to them to see, because the time was of the essence, and we hadn't awarded the contract for the architectural and engineering firm. We were in the process of doing the RFP. So I reached out to them and asked them if that would be something that they could do. Now, they are engineers, they are not architects, landscape architects, and things like that. But they did reach out to a member of their staff who could do the work. And that's how we had that relationship with them.
Okay, so we already have a contract. I just want to pause there and ask some of the older council members, just in particular, can we do that? Can we just continue to work with CPJ under an existing contract for this type of work?
Yeah, because I think it came on as needed.
Okay.
So you just as needed, like open-ended.
Okay. And so I think the part that's now a little confusing to me is the email that I got the other day about the delivery of the fitness. I know that we had discussed the potential of a fitness court. I was not under the impression though that we had determined with finality that we were going to do that. Just kind of backing up a bit about why the 7th Street was designated specifically as a playground. Was it a primary concern from citizens, and why the park just kind of became abandoned initially was the type of traffic that was there. And so the concern is that if a portion of the park, or a significant portion of the park is being designated for adult use, that's going to attract more adults that may may be, you know, they're doing things that we don't want them to do. And so that's why it was specifically designated for the use of children. And that's not to say that it couldn't be explored to see what else could be there, which is why we wanted to proceed with having the listening session to hear from the residents kind of what, if there was going to be some adult elements of the park, what they would want to see there. So I'm just not, if we could just kind of get that understanding, because the resolution around the fitness court wasn't specific to 7th Street. I actually was under the impression that it was going to be for the MLK site. So I'm not sure why we have a fitness court for 7th Street being delivered September 30th.
Okay, so I think the mayor and I will tag team on this. So you all included in the budget the funding for the fitness court. That was included in the budget. There were several discussions about the fitness court being at 7th Street. When we made that application, we made the application based on it being at 7th Street. And that was the understanding. Now, the timeline for the grant, I have been pushing and pushing and pushing that timeline back. However, we are up against the wall with that. And if you all don't want the fitness part, then you need to tell me now, because we said that we would apply for that grant. And we said that we were committed to that fitness part going in. Now, if you don't want it, I just need to let me know tonight so I can call it again.
So I think that's where I'm trying to get an understanding of where the urgency came from. I know that we did say that a fitness court at 7th Street was a possibility. So I'm not suggesting that we're saying that we didn't want to do that. I think where I got a little lost in the communication was the urgency that it had to be done now. The difference between applying for the grant versus actually purchasing and having in our possession the fitness court.
Let me see if I can clear this up. So with this fitness court, the National Fitness Courts being already budgeted for in this fiscal year, we need to make good on what we said we want to do. We have 0 family-oriented playing environments outside of what will be at the MLK Park. You have Woodmore Town Center at Glenarden, which is a HOA commanded and controlled play area, which has a basketball court and tennis court for adult behavior as well as swimming pool. There's nothing else in the city of Glenarden that has any family-oriented activities. So one of the things that we talked about back September this time last year coming into October was putting something on the ground that brought families back together. The 7th Street Park is a central located, if you will, between the 3rd and 2nd wards. First ward is commanded by MLK Park. MLK Park will have fitness equipment for adults as well as youth, as well as eventually a pavilion for seniors and all these things. You have nothing else in the city outside of MLK. So this gives us an opportunity to build value back into our families, particularly following 3 hard years of COVID-19 separation. The National Fitness Courts are set to allow the tracking of your fitness goals, weight management, calorie counting, really sophisticated equipment. So it's not something similar to the, I think you're thinking that may attract the wrong type of clientele. But what it will do, and because these grants for our children's park playground equipment were literally delayed, so we've gotten to the timeline where we could request those grants. So we're getting them, but they're not here yet. But we did make the request for them. So we're trying to put things in place to get to the children's park. But because we were outside of the cycle of those grants, it was get your fitness park together in National Fitness Park, bring your children's things together, bring the families back together.
So I'm not arguing the merits necessarily of a fitness court. What I'm more concerned about is the process that we're going along with it, right? Because as you just stated, right now we're gonna have a fitness court and the grants on the playground, we're off cycle for that. So what is gonna happen with that equipment? Is the plan to put that in 7th Street until the playground equipment comes, or is the plan to hold that somewhere until the playground equipment comes? And on that point, we also had a resolution to use ARPA funds for the playground. So it's not necessary to wait for the next cycle for a grant. So again, just more so trying to understand that. And my concern here in the way that we're, the approach of this is making sure that the community have input into it. And so I feel like at this point, we're in a situation where it's already been done and the citizens just have to take what they're going to get. And that wasn't the intent or the expectation with how, this would be planned out. And this is why when we were talking about the fitness court, I couldn't understand what the sense of urgency was in needing to get it right away when we were saying, okay, let's see if that's going to be something that we want to do. And even as recent as our work session, the language around discussing the fitness part was if we want it. It wasn't, it's coming at the end of the month.
One thing I will say, I'm looking at the resolution that was passed May 9th, 2022. This resolution actually says that the site design will include the installation of low-impact fitness equipment as well as children playground to be submitted for review and approval by the City Council of Glenarden. So this is what's been happening. So your low-impact fitness equipment, this is your National Fitness Park. There's low impact and also, like I said, governed by cell phone, and all your weight loss goals can all be managed there. So that meets section 2 of your resolution.
So on that,
Passed back in May.
yes, and on that piece, I think the piece that has been missed is the approval of the site plan by the council. We haven't even done that, and we're already going to be in possession of the fitness court. What if we were to review that and say, no, we don't want it? So that's what I'm trying to reconcile, is how we got to something being, now we're pushing back on the delivery of something that we never even approved. We haven't even seen it to approve it, because that was the conversation at the time when we talked about being in the site plan was, yes, let's see, right? Because my concern was I didn't want that fitness court to overtake the space. Like, is it gonna, what was the space allocation going to look like? And that's what we wanted the site plan to look like. But now we're about to be in possession. And to that point, is First Baptist Church of Glenarden going to charge us for storage for the fitness court? How long will we be able to store it there? What if we ultimately decide, the citizens decide that we don't want a fitness court? It's too late, because it sounds like you're saying we have to make a decision on that now.
Yeah, I would say that, according to the resolution in May, we started putting things in motion for the site plan. We started putting things in motion for the fitness equipment, and we had already put things in motion for the playground. Unfortunately, like the mayor said, the cycle of the grant for the playground doesn't end until November, when we'll find out whether or not we have a grant. And the cycle for the National Fitness Course grant, they start again their grant process in October. So if we wanted to have any opportunity to have that fitness court, then we need to come in under that October deadline. And September 30th is really pushing it to the end. Like I said, I have been working all summer to stay on the grant committee's field of vision while staying under the radar as to, whether or not this was gonna be a done deal, or whether or not it was gonna be a no-go. Yeah,
Right,
this is the second round that we tried to get this.
and as we were talking about the budget, my expectation was actually that it was going to be the next cycle for the application of the grant. That's why I couldn't understand why we kept saying time of the essence for the application for the fitness court now. But I think the point is that we're now in a situation where it's the council's right per the legislation that was passed, what was written has been usurped, right? Because what we said was we were going to review it, and what we've done now is taken a secondary concern, because the primary concern with 7th Street was having a children's playground, and we placed the secondary, which I'm not saying that it's not a great benefit to, expand the park's usage for families, but that wasn't the primary intent, and we've made that secondary intent the primary driver for how we're approaching this, because we wanted to make sure we could apply for that fitness court grant in advancing, because theoretically, we had ARPA funds, we could have had a site plan done for a playground, and it had a playground purchased and installed now, because we didn't have to wait for any second grants, because we had the ARPA money, and the children could be at a playground soon. But now we haven't done that. Now we're going to be sitting with a fitness court in storage. We haven't even seen or evaluated a site plan to determine if that's really the structure that we were hoping for. And when I say we, I'm not just speaking of the council or the administration, but the citizens being able to weigh in on that as well. So at this point, if we say, no, we don't want the fitness court, what are our chances of being able to apply for it in October? Okay. So how do we get to round 2?
Well,
When was round 1?
so we started this, fitness courts came to us last year this time. And in delay, we ended up going beyond the timeline that was available for the fitness courts to be actually awarded. And I mean, we've got Hyattsville, you've got people like Langsburg, all those guys are all looking at this. So they said, okay, well, is Leonard ready? At that point, Leonard wasn't ready. So they said, okay, we'll move on. City manager came on and we went back based on additional discussion that we could potentially have something here in 7th Street Park based on them also putting money towards the ARPA funds, because it was dealing with health, family, and mental health and wellness in our community and recreation. So they would pay a portion of it. The November timeline for all of our children's parks, we have not taken that off of the docket. It's just we were well outside of the cycle. In November, this wasn't the legislation. The legislation was only that we would look at what was available. The legislation to actually move forward didn't come forward until May. So that's why we were outside of the cycle for the children's part, playground stuff. That's what happened. Now, where we are is we're on round 2 with the National Fitness Parks. And I will tell you, these things are phenomenal as far as not only fitness, but health and wellness overall in the community, and tracking your fitness and being able to grow a real wellness plan for those fitness buffs that are going to be in our community as we're trying to evolve this community. It won't encompass as much space as I think you're envisioning. We get to determine the space sizing and, the overall site of this is not going to be as big. It's only a 15 by 15 storage. And a 15 by 15 is not even really as big as this room. And 7th Street Park is at least 3 times as big as this room.
I don't want people going around. So you say that in May passed legislation. So what happened between May and now? Like, I think to Councilwoman Reed's points, now we're being rushed to make a decision right now. And it would have been better that after we have passed that legislation, they go forward with site plan and we take our time so the council review it, approve it.
You all were on, you're on, break
No,
in August. I mean, you all were on
In
break
August?
in July.
in August, we will break for May, June, July of the year. Yeah, no budget, you were doing that. But
We looked at other items as well.
we're still here. I mean, I think we've done a great stride, coming together, like Leonard and they, and I think we continue to make great strides, but I think in doing so, we have to learn how to communicate better and work better together. I think communication is key. Now, we're just in a tight spot to do something that I believe is a phenomenal opportunity, but, you know, I've never been one to just somebody tell us a phenomenal opportunity, I just say yes. No, so I want to be able to say, okay, how's it called phenomenal opportunity? What does it look like so that we make an informed decision? And right now, we're just in an unfortunate situation.
Right, and if I may just quickly add to what Council President just mentioned, and also Councilwoman Fareed, is, you know, the site plan, that's the part where I'm still trying to see where the mishap went as far as communicating it with us to review. And I don't knock intent, so I just want to go that, I know how it is to find grants and research and all that stuff. I don't knock the intent of the administration, so please don't take at least my commentary as that. But I want to be clear that to adding an additional layer to what Councilwoman Fareed mentioned about usurping the council's opportunity to do the site plan, we also usurp the will of the citizens, because as one of the co-sponsors to this particular legislation, when we got voted on, even before, I think it was August, we had already walked the streets and we identified 7th Street Park as moving forward, one of our first city council events. And one of the things that the citizens over there kept stressing was the playground space. So it's not Councilwoman Fareed, it's not Councilwoman Gill, or even Council Vice President Burton's will. It was literally us listening to those particular citizens. And so right now, to what Council President mentioned, we're in a tough spot. And I don't knock the fact that it's a phenomenal opportunity. Trust me, I don't, but it feels somewhat disingenuous for me to look at the citizens in their face when they told us what they wanted and was going to go back to them after the fact now when we already have this fitness opportunity.
That is the most important point, in which was why we were hosting this, you know, listening session. I almost feel like what is the point in having this session now for citizens to come and express their, you know, their desires, their concerns, if it's pretty much already done.
So when was the listening session?
It was for October 8th.
So let me just say this, the information on the fitness court was shared with you all a couple of times, because I know Ms. Jones indicated that she didn't like the first time that we gave the information. She wanted to see the application, right? The application was only available online through a link. And so I couldn't provide that like written application that she wanted to see. But what I did provide was other information about what the fitness court looked like for you all to have an opportunity. There was a video, there was some specs, and there was some other information for you all to have. And then, you know, the resolution came up with the site plan. What you have to do with the site plan is you can't just go out there and tell a landscape architect or engineer, give me a site plan on this site and tell me what can fit on it. You have to know to some degree what it is you want to go on there so that they can tell you whether or not it can fit on there. So when I went to them, I said, okay, I want a playground, and they were familiar with the MOK Park because CPJ worked with the city and getting the building torn down, I believe, correct? Right, so they were familiar with it. I said, give me a footprint that, or when I talked to them about the site plan, I said, give me what would be a footprint about the size of what's at MLK Park, or whether or not that would fit on this lot, and give me a footprint for this fitness park, which I gave them the specs for, right? So that's on hold right now. But what I couldn't put on hold was any further was whether or not we wanted to participate with this grant with the National Fitness.
Right, and I think that, again, the issue is not whether or not we knew what a fitness court was or what it looked like. We had that information and we talked about the site plan having, including what a potential fitness court would look like. But again, that was hypothetical. We're talking about right now, how do we get from that to, we have a fitness court that's going to be stored at the First Baptist Church of Glenarden come September 30th. So I think, what I want to know is, what do we do now? What are the next steps that we do? Should we cancel this listening session for the citizens? Should we? Okay.
I think that is still going to bring value to the citizens because, the conception of what the site looks like is not written in stone. It's whether or not you want to have a playground that is a 3 to 5-year-old playground, whether or not you want to have a playground that's a 5 to 12-year-old playground, whether you want to have both of them on there, whether or not you want to have picnic tables, grills, whether or not you want to have a pavilion. I mean, I think it's so many more components that are in there that they have a voice about that the listening session could be useful for. But I think what is also important is whether or not the city sees any value in having the National Fitness Court in the city. And put it in, and particularly at 7th Street. Are there other locations where that fitness court fits in? I mean, there's maybe one other one, but does it have the visibility? And that was the concern, is whether or not it would have the visibility. And the visibility is important, and the chief will tell you this, in order to help keep it safe and the neighborhood safe. Because you don't want it tucked in on a site that is not visible so that it gets vandalized. Right.
No, and that's totally fair, and I think we would have all appreciated the opportunity to have that discussion and that evaluation to see what the options were. So I think what we'll do now is we'll keep the session for October 8th. What we'll do is have CPJ there with the proposed site plan.
They don't have the proposed site plan.
That's what you know what you said.
No. They haven't started to work on it because I asked them to.
So I'm sorry. So what was $5,300?
$5,300 is the cost to do the site plan. We haven't paid anything. That's just a proposal for them to do the site plan. It would be $5,300. Now they would come to a listening session at a cost per individual, right? So whatever it costs to have Robin Barnhart there as an engineer, whatever it costs to have Jeff Sutton there as the landscape architect, they would be on an hourly basis, right?
Okay.
So the $5,200 is only if you all decide to move forward with them with the site plan.
Okay. So is there an RFP out there? Like now it's sounding like CPJ is.
They're still on call.
Okay.
They're still on call.
But there's no RFP currently out there for any other site designer, right?
Well, you all have agreed to do the architectural and engineering service with Murphy and Duke-Paper, and you could use them if you choose.
All right, so we'll have this session on October 8th. We'll bring the specs for the fitness court. Did you already have in mind where in the park you wanted to put that fitness court?
My most logical place would be up front where the basketball court is putting. But that's up to the site plan designer, right? They know more about landscape architect. They know more about the contours of that property. They know more about, how much fill it would take to fill up the back if you wanted to put it in the back since it slopes off in the back. I'm leaving that up to the professionals. I don't know.
Okay. Okay, so we'll have that session, and we have, I think we have the information that we need. We know that we don't have a time limit on the storage, right? So we're not going to be pressed to say we got to put that out there by November or something.
Well, there's not a time limit, But what National Fitness Course would request is that we give them a time, right, of when we think, because playgrounds can't go in the middle of December. And you can't pour concrete, below a certain degree,
Okay.
right? So the hope was that we could get it in before November. That was the hope, but
Will we sorry to cut you off. Will we be able to purchase playground equipment by November?
you can purchase it, but it probably won't get installed. Because the NOK, playground equipment, we purchased that back in the spring, and due to supply chain demands and issues, it's just now getting into us.
Okay, so let's take that as our next steps, have this session, and we also kind of need to lay out what needs to happen in order for the park to open. So, let's put that together.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. President. This whole conversation is really disturbing to me, having worked on MLK Park, because again, I think that we're doing the service to the citizens. The citizens should have came out and said exactly what they wanted in that park. The history of that park is, the history of the park is, it's not a good history. They put it out because there's a trail at the back of that park that goes up into the woods, and people used to come through there at night, and they hang down there because there's no lighting down there. They would do drugs, they would do all kinds of things down there. Now you're saying you want to put that, the fitness court at the front of the park. I would put it in the back of the park where the trail is. I wouldn't want no kids back there with a playground playing with a trail that goes up into the woods somewhere. Looking at a safety issue. Another thing is, you have not had no one walk that park to see what's on that park to see if that can even fit. You may get the fitness court in there, but by the time you go back to that open area, it may not be conducive for the type of playground equipment that we need. Even on MLK Park right now, we got to dip in the basketball court. We got to fill in before we can even put it. It's a sinkhole. And before we put the rest of the equipment up, the first equipment up, we had to put up a whole pipe that was in the ground that we knew nothing about. We had to have them come and cat that off and pull it out of that ground. There's a lot involved. But the one thing we did do before we started any of this, was we talked to the citizens to see if they really, really wanted that. Now, that would have been an opportune time for, mayor to bring her concept of fitness court, and Councilman Fareed, Ferguson, and Leon to bring their concept for the playground equipment. The citizens can look at it, because I'm gonna tell you right now, when we did MLK Park, they said it's great that that park is as big as it is, because you can have the playground equipment for kids from 3 to 12 on one end, and the adults on the other end, and they won't be disturbed. That's one thing they don't like. They don't, the adults want to work out. They don't want to get out screaming and playing with the kids. Keeps it separate. We have the basketball courts in the middle. So looking at that a lot. See, what I don't want to happen is to put the court down and then you can only get 2 pieces of equipment.
Agreed.
That could happen. But that all should have been discussed and looked at. The engineer should have walked that property. We should have got somebody, a landscape architect, designers to look at that. Look at the slope, look at the, if there's any springs under there, because there's a number of springs in that art. And I know there's a spring back there against that sound barrier. I do know water does run back. So it's just things that you need to look at to see if you can do both projects. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying you need to look to see if you could. And if you can only do one, honestly, I would look at the children. Because there is no play equipment. That was a previous mayor. That was a one go that play equipment in every ward. But I don't think it's fair to the citizens, because right now you've already saying you purchased the equipment. Damn, you're going to get this, and you're going to work around that. And like I said, if it's that lot being the size it is, and like I said, I know the history of that lot, and it needs to be lit up. It has to be lit up. And like I said, it's a very secluded lot. It's a very secluded lot. They actually got a trail that goes all the way to Alma Road. You cut through the Alma Road. I wouldn't want my kid playing down there near that trail until my grabbing me up on Alma Road and calm down. I'd rather them up front there to see, and I can make sure that I can record it. So I think those are things you need to look at. And I think that before we went this far with anything, that definitely the citizens should have a say on that. That's what we did with MLK. before we even thought about anything we were gonna put on there. We brought them out here, they were down in this here with neighborhood design. Neighborhood design said, what do y'all want? They said, we wanted the playground. Then we said, well, what else can we get on there? We want to big enough for, adult equipment, so you can do it in phases, so, but the citizens made a decision. They said, they could not even pick up the equipment that they wanted. But right now, the citizens are like at a disadvantage, because that court is, if you got it, if you want to store it, it's going there, so you gotta build around that court, not knowing for sure what you can do on that sloping area. That is a serious slope. If you gotta build up with a retaining wall to level that off, get equipment in it, you talking about additional expenses. You're gonna have. I think we should have, again, it comes down to communication. Should have reached out to the citizens and move forward. I know you sent all this, because I'm gonna tell you straight, I didn't agree with the way it's going. I kept on saying, get an architectural design, get neighborhood design, get somebody to look at this before we move forward with any grant, because it might not be conducive to the type of park that we want over there, again. You also gotta remember, it's still a neighborhood street. You have all this equipment down there, you got people parking all up and down the street on the weekends, People with kids, they'll walk, take their little walk down there. You got adults coming down there to work out, and the adults around kids. I'm just saying, I think we took the cart before the horse. Buying equipment, you're forced now to build around the equipment versus building around what the community wants. I would have a listening session, but I'm gonna tell you honestly, me personally, I would cancel the whole thing and have the listening session and then go from there. If we can't get it, fine. If we use ARPA money to get it, we'll use ARPA money to get it. We get another grant for the playground equipment while we're going through that. That's what I would. But honestly, I would actually cancel that until we got a landscape architect over there to look at all of that property to see what could go in there, what was conducive to that piece of property, in everything. That's what we did at MLK. So that's what I'm doing. Then get the citizens involved. Because again, one thing the citizens don't like is being forced to accept something that they may not want. Saying, okay, this is what you want to get. And they're like, we didn't want that. We only get 2 or 3 pieces of play equipment here. I would just cancel the whole thing. I'm sorry you did all that work, but I'm just saying, I think that the resolution that you have says, I think it says something about coming to the council with conceptual design.
Yes, and that's what we're talking about.
And I think that's where the problem is, because that's the first thing that you should have came to, but then we could have said yay, nay, or ask questions. Did the architect look at this? Was this, did they, what are they looking at? How is proposing this to go on? How is the layout going to be? Do we got to do build up? Do we got to, all the questions that need to be answered and asked. That's what the conceptual design. I think that should have been first and foremost what was done. And I think that's the intent that I thought the May legislation was to do. Have it come to the council as a conceptual design, and then we will move forward with whatever grant you wanted to do. And my thing is this, I'm gonna tell you honestly, I don't like, because we're in recess doesn't mean we don't work. Even our legislation said that. We will meet if we had to. So that's information that we still should have gotten. My thing is that since I've been on this council, city manager's funding us information, mayor's funding us information all through the summer. And we were meeting all through the summer. We had Fernando, we had other meetings. It isn't like we wouldn't meet. But even if we weren't, we would have had the information for our first work session in September. Then we could have gave you a clear understanding of what we were going with. Me personally, I was scratching. Honestly, I was just like, get somebody out here to look at that property to see what we can put on there. Because my thing is, we're gonna make the property fit the court instead of the court fit the property. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Harris. With that, I think that's a good place. In the conversation,
Well, I think we need to just take a quick consensus on it. We all agree to just say we don't want the fitness court. That's what it sounds like Mr. Aaron is saying. I don't disagree. I'm trying to find a compromise here, but I think the point is that's what the expectation was. Even when we discussed the site plan, I clearly recall stating the fact that I was concerned about how both would fit in that space and that we needed to see that before we did that. So I was taken aback to see that there's a delivery date for a fitness court. So I think there's a disconnect between the concept that being approved and then obtaining.
Okay, so consensus to
scrap the,
Cancel the fitness
Cancel.
program.
cancel the, so. I just have a question. Why can't we move the listening session up? Instead of pushing it in October to give, I mean, and I think I really want to debate the fact that citizens haven't had an opportunity to talk about the fitness court. The city manager's been bringing this to the table, and it's been on multiple agendas already. So citizens had opportunities to say, hey, what is this thing? What are we doing? And also, the design itself has been brought before the council. So I do want to debate the fact that the city manager did not give citizens time to debate it. We need to move the listening session up before we pull this, because if you do that, then you're really taking away the opportunity for the citizens who do want something like this. And I will tell you that there are citizens that want this, as much as citizens that want playground equipment. I mean, you're going to be making a decision for the citizens either way. So either we move the listening session up, allow the citizens to have, no kidding, a formal, this is all we're talking about, decide on fitness courts and decide on playground, have our CPJ folks there so that they can answer questions appropriately instead of taking a consensus and killing things here in council. Allow the citizens an opportunity to fully understand.
So I just want to push back on what, I don't think that's fair. If I think back to how this started, it started with the idea for kids to have a playground. And somewhere along the line, it seems like it was forced, well, we need a citizen there. Well, okay, well, let's get the citizens' comments, because it started with citizens' comments for kids to have a playground. And now we're here, which I've said before, we didn't communicate better. We both have to take ownership on that as elected officials and administration, just to communicate better, because the communication process did not work. And so now we're here where we're just really just forcing the issue. Councilman Herring has proposed an alternative solution, which I think is a good idea, where we can use ARPA money if we decide to go with the fitness equipment, or the fitness equipment, then we get the grant for the playground equipment, if that's the case, instead of trying to go with the grant for the fitness equipment and then trying to use ARPA money for the playground equipment. I think that is in my opinion, the happy medium to just, I don't think I'll speak for myself. I don't feel comfortable with this being rushed without public input. And pushing it up is not going to make it feel less rushed. It's going to be even more rushed. So I'm going to leave that comment there. I'll go to Ms. Councilman Ferguson, then we'll move forward with the consensus, because this is getting further along than expected.
So as one of the co-sponsors, I feel some kind of way about the question as well. And it's not true that nothing has been said about it, because it was written in the resolution that the council would have a say so. And it is true that this has been brought to the table several times. We've had emails, but we have never given concurrence, which again goes back to what is written, what was voted on in the resolution. It was never said that administration could go and buy something and then we just, narrow the request for time. I mean, we did not give a concurrence, so if you don't answer, then to me, it means that, stand down. So, and as far as the pushing the time up, flyers have gone out, the state has been advertised. And so, while I feel like we have done what we were supposed to do, because again, it was voting written legislation, and it clearly says that the bottom line is, the council has to concur. So we didn't, then we did. So that does not mean to go full steam ahead. That, I don't make specific either. you know, just because we're in a crunch. But if we're in a crunch, my decision will be, I'm not, you know, no. But, I mean, if I have to do something, I research, I don't visual, I don't see. If you see, we don't even have a plan, site plan, so difference. And then with, the history of that, area, a lot of this stuff was torn down or taken down because of traffic. And just the fact that people said to put the, adult, the fitness equipment, in the front of the park. Having babies all the way in the back by the woods, I mean, it hasn't even been, figured out, so, I disagree with, canceling that, session, because again, like I said, it has been advertised, and even, flyers went out on Glen Art Day. So,
All right, so the census to cancel the fitness equipment. Councilwoman Harris?
Let me say, Mayor, I do want to say that citizens have not had this opportunity to speak out on this part. Even though we brought it to these meetings over and over again, that we get the same people over and over again, they come out to, I mean, this is to this on Zoom and everything else. We sent out postcards when we did MLK, to all the residents that's going to be affected. So you need to hear from the citizens, and that's one thing you're going to have to learn, because you said it here at a meeting, don't mean that the citizens know what's going on. What they're doing, Councilwoman Dion, Ferguson, is putting out notices and having a forum allows the citizens to come out and actually speak. And like I said, you can always say we gave you the opportunity if they don't. But I feel that it needs to be scrapped. I feel that more information about what can go in that park. And let's say we use ARPA money for that and use the grant for that.
Yes. I've always found out with citizens that they, when they're involved in things, or to involve them in opportunities that come before their section of the city is. And I'm not sure whether Councilwoman Fareed, Guillaume, and Ferguson are planning to do this. I know that you said you put out notification to the citizens, but if you need a door-to-door touch, I can go out and hand flyers out to each resident on 7th Street to ensure that they are properly notified. There are a lot of children on 7th Street, and that is the reason why I think when Councilwoman Fareed got the information that citizens wanted a playground area, was the reason why is because there are a lot of children. To bring in a fitness park and not give the citizens of that street the opportunity to see the site, which it looks like the council hasn't even seen the site plan. And September 30th is like next week. So yes, I am for scrapping the proposal and starting from scratch and doing things the right way by first getting an architect to do a site plan to determine what it is after we listen to the citizens, what it is that they want. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gray? Councilwoman Dion? Vice President Ferguson? Scrap. Yes.
I definitely want to hold that listening session. And I do want to say that I think we should take this as a lesson learned. I have brought this topic of 7th Street Park up at several meetings, and I feel like this is the first time that we've gotten a really comprehensive understanding of what's going on there. So I think the lack of communication or the miscommunication is not because of lack of asking. So please, especially when it's something that affects so many citizens, and when we've committed to them to do something, And so, yes, I have to scrap it, and October 8th will be the session in terms of sending a communication out. The mailing was supposed to go out, but we ended up having to pull that back. If we need to go ahead and do one specifically for this,
And I just want to say, City Manager Butler, I really do appreciate the work that you put behind this as it relates to getting the grant out there and going for it. I know it's like to, work hard on something, just not come to fruition. So this is no knock on your hard work to pursue that path. So do appreciate you. Hopefully we can be on the same page moving forward with the session. With that, next on our agenda is citizens' comments. If you, for our citizens online, if you have a question, please raise your hand, or you can open your mic and call you. For all of our citizens who are in attendance tonight, you could raise your hand. I can refresh you, and I ask that you. I wish I could get the mic to you this time. First citizen comment is former mayor Joyce Butler.
Oh, you know what? Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, treasurer, mayor, and city manager, and council. Okay. I want to comment on the banquet room. The banquet room is not a banquet. It's a banquet room. Yeah. And when I was here, and Chief is absolutely correct when he tells you not to promote those go-go's. When I was here in 2007 to 2009, I had experience with two. They're promoters. They promote those go-go's. They are a big problem. I had one of the officers to come to me to let me know they were selling tickets in the hallway on the computer. So you don't want the go-go bands here. They don't bring money to this city, and they are farming for a coordinator when they're trying to collect the payments. So that should be a definite a no-no. But like I say, we are a dance hall. I mean, we're not a dance hall. We are a banquet room, and there is a difference. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Let you know the chief was correct. You are inviting a real problem. And I know it's from the experience.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens' comments? All right, not seeing any. Next on the agenda, to close session.
Are you coming back into session?
Yeah.
So you can announce that you're moving on back.
We will be coming back into session. So with that, do I have?
I move that we go into closed session.
second.
Any discussion? Again, for citizens online and since with this closed session will be briefly going into personal items which is allowed under our charter. It's discuss a hiring decision also allowed to be spoken that when we return, and then with that.
Councilwoman Fareed,
Yes.
Councilwoman Young,
Yes.
Councilwoman, yes. Councilman Aaron,
Yes.
Vice President Ferguson.
Yes.
President.
Yes.
Vote carries 6-0.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask the chief if we can use your office right quick.
I would like to reopen the meeting, now for the closed session. So this meeting is, being recorded again, as we're back to the closed session. So with that, we'll,
Mr. President, we need to set the time that you're coming.
I'm sorry, and we're coming out of closed session into open session at 11:30 p.m. Thank you. With that, there's only one item left on the agenda. And that's legislation R06 2020. A resolution to approve the appointment of Charles L. Simpson Jr. Director of Works. Been introduced by Derek Ferris, Vice President, co-sponsor at the request of administration. Public hearing was held on Tuesday, September 13th, 2022. This meeting is today, Tuesday, September Monday, September 9th, September 19th. Whereas pursuant to section 901, authority to employ personnel of the city of Menard Charter, the Director of Public Works as head of the Public Works Department shall be appointed by the city manager with approval of the council, and as based upon the judgment, experience, and recommendation of the city manager and city treasurer, who did conduct interviews on the 28th of July and determined Charles L. Simpson can be most qualified to assume the role. And whereas the city manager recommends Charles L. Simpson Jr. for the position of Director of Public Works for the city of Menard at the annual salary indicated in the budget, and said appointment to be effective upon approval of this resolution by the city council. And whereas based on the resume attachment to Exhibit A, questions asked of candidates, Exhibit B, city of Menard job announcement, Exhibit C, the city manager has determined that it is appropriate to approve the appointment of Charles L. Simpson Jr. as Director of Public Works for the city of Menard. Now therefore be it resolved by the city council of Menard City in regular session this 19th day of September that the appointment of Charles L. Simpson Jr. as Director of Public Works for the city of Menard at the annual salary in budget B, and it is hereby approved pursuant to the authority granted in section 901 of the city of Menard Charter. 2, that the city resolution shall take effect upon approval by the Menard City Council. I have a motion to bring this report to a full vote.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Jones, second by Councilwoman Guillaume. Any discussion? All right, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Fareed.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hill,
Yes.
Councilman Herring,
And there's no reflection of the candidate. at this meeting.
Councilwoman Jones. Yes. Vice President Ferguson.
Yes.
President Curtis.
Yes.
Vote carries.
With that, do I have a motion to go back into closed session?
So
Second.
Marie, second by Guillaume.
And I wanted to say something. Yeah, as a closing remark, I just wanted to take this opportunity publicly to commend Councilman Herring, Councilman Harrison, Councilwoman Guillaume, and all of the committee and staff, Mrs. Wilson, Mrs. Smallwood, and the rest of the volunteers that assisted Mr. Councilman Herring with the Glenarden Day. Thank you so much. It was a great success. I'm still receiving phone calls before I left tonight saying how they had a wonderful time and enjoyed their time at this, and how great the Glenarden Day 2023 was. 2020, yeah, 2022, I'm sorry.
And I want to second
just want to say thank you.
I want to second that. I had a very tough weekend, and that Saturday, Glenarden, there was a ability for me to take my mind off everything that was going on. My son had a good time. Apparently, that's the best vacation we've ever had. And so it was really well done. It was my first Glenarden day. So I just want to say thank you. And, second to Mr. Harry, Councilor Harrison, and Councilwoman Young, and the rest of the committee. So well done. All right. So with that,
Let me just say, I appreciate, all the thanks, but we couldn't have done it without from the school council. Like I said, y'all approved it, y'all, approved the resolutions that came through. We had some great sponsors, some great volunteers. I do want to recognize first the Church of Leonard. They gave us $2,000 toward the event, and that was really great of them. Reverend Nikki Pearson sat down here all day long, and singing they bingo for us. Even though she's supposed to be a little early, so I appreciate her, First Baptist Church, Survivor Ministry, Pastor John Jenkins, and all of other sponsors too. Like I said, it's great and that everybody enjoyed themselves. And we're doing it again next year. Somebody looks forward to doing it again next year. All right, thank you.
all right. And so we have a person.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. We're going into closed session to discuss personnel. Personnel, you can. So with that, vote to go to closed session. Councilwoman Fareed,
Yes.
Councilwoman G,
Yes.
Councilman Cameron,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones,
Yes.
Vice President Ferguson, and President Curtis. Yes. Thank you. The time is 11:06. This meeting is now concluded.